What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and today I'm going to teach you exactly what to do so that you can understand your rental market. This is going to help you know what things should and could rent for, and I promise you, if you understand this trick, it will help you make more money in real estate investing than any other trick. So with that being said, let's jump into it. All right, guys, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Chandler Smith, and I've been investing in real estate for the last 6+ years. I currently own over 103 doors of rental real estate, and because I've learned how to understand my rental market, just the understanding of knowing where rents are and being able to purchase a property and then raising rents has literally added on millions of dollars to my net worth. Now, I'm just in my 20s, so I can promise you before I die, this trick will make me hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's why I put this video together, is there's so many people that don't understand their rental market, and yet they're trying to get into investing in real estate. And if you do that, you can still do pretty good. But if you truly understand your market and know how to use that understanding in the right way, it can make you millions, and it can do it in a very short period of time. So with all of that being said, let's just jump right into it so I can show you everything that you need to do and know to understand your rental market. But before I do that, I know these claims of all of these millions of dollars you're going to make from this trick sound pretty aggressive, or maybe even over the top, but I want to explain something to you. I want you to imagine that you just purchased a brand new rental property. Now, when you go into this rental property, it's vacant and you're in the process of cleaning it up. And when you clean it up, you find this booklet of baseball cards. Now, you open up this booklet and you realize that these cards are super old. And in your mind, you're thinking, wow, these are freaking old cards. I'm sure they're total trash. I'm gonna take it in and see if I can get any money out of it, but I don't have any use for it. Now, you go into the pawn shop and you say, hey, what do you take for this? And the guy opens it up, pans through, and he says, you know what? I'll pay you $100. And you think, holy cow, $100 richer than I was going to be? Why the heck not? Let's take it. Now, you sell him this book of baseball cards for $100 and you think you've made it because you know there were only like 20 cards in there and you think you're set. You walked out with $100. Now, little do you know that the owner of that pawn shop grabs these cards, waits until you walk out of that front door and starts screaming like crazy. He goes, he shuts the door to his pawn shop for the day, and he's taking the day off to celebrate because you just sold him $500,000 worth of baseball cards for $100. Now, is this an over-the-top example? Yes, it is, but it's very comparable to you understanding your rental market. And the reason for this is there are lots of people with rental properties that are renting these properties for, let's say, $400 to $500 per unit. And what you know when you connect with them is that the true market rents of that property are closer to $1,200. Now, I know this seems crazy because you're like, why on earth would they rent it? Well, here's why. They have owned this property for years and years and years. When they started owning it, it was probably $300 per unit. And so they've slowly creeped up rents, maybe $25 every 5 to 10 years. And they're thinking, my property's paid off. I'm cash flowing like crazy. I've done a great job with this rental property. It's in pristine condition. It's full of renters. Who wouldn't want to buy it? And they remember, you know what, when I bought real estate, the 1% rule was a really big deal. And this guy, he wants to buy it even above that. It's a steal. I'm going to sell it to him at an awesome price. I'm going to come out winning because I made a ton of money on it. Let's do this thing. Now, they are the same kind of seller as the seller of these baseball cards. Now, they might have been at a point where they actually understood real estate, but now they don't, and they're willing to sell you a property where it's extremely fair for them in their mind and really extremely fair for you in your mind. And this is why it's so important for you to understand your rental market, because if you don't know what something can rent for, or you don't know what little inexpensive tweaks to make so that it can maximize your rents, then you will never be a super successful real estate investor.
You'll never be one of them.
Lieutenant! Lieutenant, they're here!
On the alternative, if you understand these tricks and tips I'm going to teach you, I promise you, you can be that guy that shuts down his shop for the day and celebrates, because you will land some extraordinary deals that other people are missing because of your understanding of your market. So here are my tips and tricks for you to understand your market. First off, you need to pinpoint a very small area. Now, a lot of people live in a city that's surrounded by lots of other cities. If I was you, I would pick a city and then I would break it up into 4, and I would pick 1/4 where you want to invest. Now, the reason that I suggest doing this is a lot of people get very overwhelmed, and it's hard to know what something can truly rent for if you're not focused in on an area that's very similar. If you're jumping over to a city 30 minutes this direction and another city 30 minutes this direction, you're not going to understand the pros and cons of those markets, because they're all going to get mixed together and you're not going to know what's what. And so you need to really narrow in on an area. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, well, Chandler, if I'm narrowed in on this tiny area, what if I'm missing out on deals over here in this city, or only 30 minutes this direction or 15 minutes this direction? And my answer to you is, that's okay, all right? There are always going to be deals, but if you're bouncing all over not knowing exactly what you're looking for, then you're going to end up losing, because you need to understand this market. Now, I'm not saying you can't expand and learn more markets. When I started, I was focused in on this market, and now I'm focused on this market and this market and this market and this market, because I understand all of them. I've got notes. I know what's good here and what's bad here and what'll rent high here and what'll rent low here. And so you've got to start somewhere and getting a very strong understanding of this one market, and just looking for deals in this area, I promise you, will pay off in a big way. So that's the first thing. Pinpoint your area. Now, you can do this because you've grown up in the area and you know this is a good part of town that also has good rental units. You can look at a city and you can say, hey, this has good school districts. This has good access to everything you need to live a good life. However you want to do it, I personally don't think it matters, because if you learn this market and it doesn't make sense, then move to this market. All right, but just pick an area that you can focus in and get a very good understanding of. So that's step 1. Make sure that you pinpoint that small area that you can gain a very good understanding of. Now, the next step is a very generic step. It's something that you're probably already doing, but you should still start here. So the next thing I want you to do is log on to Rentometer. Now, I'm not going to give you the whole rundown of how Rentometer works, but essentially it's going to give you the average rents in your area. The reason this shouldn't be the only thing that you use is you don't know the quality of all of these different properties. You don't know the exact location of all of these different properties. And Rentometer is something that is just based off the information they've been able to gather. So it's not a perfect science by any means. On top of that, markets change quickly, and a lot of times Rentometer is going to lag at whatever your current market is. So this is a great starting point. It's a great thing to write down in your notes and say, all right, they've got evidence of these, but you need to dig a lot deeper than Rentometer to make sure you understand the rents in your area. However, it's a great place to start. So step number 2, go and hop on Rentometer and figure out in that specific area what rents are going for. And that's just www.rentometer.com. I'll put the link right here so that you can find it. Now it's time for the fun part. Now remember, you've got your little area, you've checked it out on Rentometer, you know what average rents are, but now it's time to find the top of your market. So if you're niching in on 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartments, then you're going to just look at 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartments in this specific area. Now, if you're looking at single family homes that are 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, same thing. I don't want you looking at tons of different stuff. You want to really narrow in at what your niche is. And for me, 1-bedroom apartments and 2-bedroom apartments, they are my jam, all right? That's where I'm at. That's my comfort zone, and that's where I look for absolutely incredible deals. I do that for a couple of reasons. First off, it's usually the bottom of the rental market, all right? I want to be in a niche where I know that if crap hits the fan, this is going to be people's worst case scenario. So that if everyone is starving in their bigger homes or their bigger apartments or their bigger whatever, they're gonna drop down to me and still have to pay market rents because there's gonna be such a huge demand in this niche, all right? When crap hits the fan, people don't upgrade, they downgrade. And you can't get any lower than a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment unless it's a loft. And those fall into the same category for me. So you can do your niche the way you want to, but that's why I'm really comfortable in this niche. And now I'm going to find the very top of the market in this niche. What that means is I'm going to call every possible apartment complex, duplex, fourplex, eightplex, 10plex, 32plex, 104plex, whatever it is in this area, I'm going to call everything that is a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment, and I'm gonna figure out what they're renting for. On top of that, I'm gonna ask them what their wait list is, what their availability is, how their availability changes throughout the year, what times of the year they're more full and less full. Are they someone that always has 20% of their units available so that I could come and sign up anytime? I want to know the answer to all of these questions, and the way I'm gonna use that is if they are full or have a wait list, you know that their rents are too low. All right, so if their rents are too low, you're gonna know right away that they are stuffed. There's no way that you can get in there, and that's why it's important to call on people so that even if you call someone and they say, hey, we're full, we don't have any availability, we're not really renting anything right now, you say, no, that's totally cool. Tell me what you're renting your units for right now and when you think there will be availability. Do you ever have times where you have more availability? Because this is going to help you understand where they're at. If they never have availability and they even have a wait list, their rents are too low, and you know this is the bottom of the market for a unit that looks like that. If possible, see if you can get inside units like this as well so you can understand how good of shape they're in. Because if you go and you see a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment and it's super, super trashy and the rents are at $600 a month and they have a wait list, you know even for the crappiest unit, you should be able to pull $650, $700 because you know no matter what, you're gonna be able to fill it at $600 all day, every day because they've got a wait list for their crappy apartments. So you're gonna want to look on super high end and super low end. You're gonna wanna call all of them and you're gonna wanna ask all of those questions so that you can figure out exactly where the market is. So those are the next 2 steps put together. First off, you wanna find the top of the market. Then you want to find the bottom of the market, you want to find everything in between, and you want to write all of this down and make sure that you understand what is going for what, whether it's a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom apartment, and you want to know exactly how much each one of those apartments are worth so that when you look at a unit, you can immediately say, this is the top of what that should rent for, this is the mid, and this is worst case scenario where you know no matter what, you would be able to fill it at this price. The next thing I want to point out is everyone looks at different kind of properties and views this in a different way. Now there are A properties, B properties, C properties, D properties. I kind of like to hang out up here, but I don't have very many A properties, all right? And the reason for this is I believe that most A properties are brand new. Now, everyone classifies them a little bit differently, but to me, an A property is something that's been built in the last 5 to 10 years. It's in great shape, it's in a great neighborhood. Everything about this property is great. And the reason I don't usually purchase these properties is the margin for finding one of these properties and then having the ability to drastically increase rents is not very good because a lot of these people are watching the rents, all right? They've just purchased the property. They've made sure to capitalize on higher rents and they're constantly watching the market to keep them up because their margin is a lot more thin, most likely because they spent more on this property and were willing to take a lower return. So they're doing everything that they can to maximize their return. Now, this isn't always true. I'm not saying you won't be able to find A properties where you can raise rents and have an awesome upside on them. However, for me personally, they've been harder to find. The other thing I personally feel with these higher properties is they're a lot more competitive because when someone sees something nice and you've got a group of a bunch of real estate investors and a lot of them are either wanting to start or pretty new when it comes to real estate investing, anything new and fancy and fresh, they're drawn to that, all right? They see it and they're like, oh, I'm gonna spend my money on something that looks new and feels cool. And that's awesome for them, all right? If they wanna get their 3 to 5% return, let them have it. But I personally don't like competing against those people. So I'm looking in the niche of the B and C properties. Now, I don't wanna dive into crap, especially when it comes to bad neighborhoods, but that mid-range where some of the homes or some of the apartments are still in pretty good shape, but they're definitely starting to get dated, that is the stuff I love. because a lot of times you're going to find older investors that have even taken really good care of their property, but they haven't raised rents in the process. And so that's kind of my sweet spot where I know if crap hits the fan, renters are going to drop down. So you're always going to have demand in these areas. But you also can capitalize on some of the older people that have gotten a huge return over years and years on these properties. Their properties paid off, they're content, and they have no idea how much upside is still there. Again, they're the guy that goes in to sell these cards for $100 and is pumped because it's a free $100, where for me, I know it's worth drastically more. And so that's where I like to hang out, is in those areas. I really believe it's a lot like buying a car, where when you buy a brand new car, the dealership doesn't make a huge margin on it. But when you go used cars, it would make you sick, where a lot of times they're taking home a $5,000, $10,000 margin on these cars because they can mark them up and you don't know the difference, even though they were able to pick them up for substantially less. And so that's the niche I love, because that's the niche I can add the most value to with the least expense and time. So once you understand the top of the market, the bottom of the market, you understand exactly what you're looking for and where you're looking for it, it's time to gain a very strong understanding of what makes a property nice for people. All right, you need to start getting into these properties and saying, all right, this was at the top of the market. How is it on square footage? How does it look? What makes it feel nice to a renter, or what makes it feel not nice to a renter? It's insane, because you could have one property that is 700 square feet renting for drastically more than one that is 900 square feet. And yet you can see it's because this one has a couple little tweaks with flooring, paint, countertops, things that really are very cheap, but they've made new in one unit. And this massive unit has all dated stuff. And so if you can go in and say, holy cow, this would cost me, heck, $3,000, and it should rent more than this smaller unit because I'll update it to what this smaller unit has, or even better, then you can capitalize on rents in a huge way without making major tweaks. I'm never going to be the guy that's going super crazy with plumbing or electrical or redesigning or adding walls or doing all of that crazy stuff. I'm the guy that's looking to find paint that needs to be changed, flooring that needs to be changed, maybe countertops or a couple of little appliance things, but overall, I want to go in and say, all right, what is the least amount that I can spend here to get it to where it's going to yield the largest amount of rents? And this part's difficult because the only way you can gain this understanding is if you are consistently getting into property. That means anytime you see something for rent in your area, go call them up and get inside it. All right, walk through it. That's why it is so important to get inside these properties. So in your area, if you see anything for rent, anything for sale, literally anything where people will let you inside and you can see what they've been renting it for and all those other things you're supposed to check on, you've got to then use all of that information tied with what the property looks like. And you've got to start to get a feel for, hey, this could be tweaked and instantly this would be worth $100 more a month, even though that's only going to cost me $500 to $1,000. And again, for me, those things are always going to be flooring, paint, maybe fixing or updating the appliances, and maybe a couple of the light fixtures or other fixtures on the sink or other things like that that are very inexpensive. I'm not taking on a full remodel, all right? I want to keep my expenses very low, but see places where I can just update things and make them better. On top of that, if I go in and purchase a property where I see that it is somewhat updated, maybe it's a little dated, but overall it's updated, and I know it can yield drastically higher rents without doing anything, that is my perfect deal. And the only way I know it's a perfect deal is because I know that I've seen that exact unit or something comparable to it rent for hundreds and hundreds of dollars more per month. Now, a lot of people say, oh, that's total savagery to go in and raise rents on people when they've had it down here. No, it's not. That's supply and demand. That's the market. And what's so cool about this is people that are living there, even they are smart enough to know they got a freaking steal. And usually they're not surprised when rents do get raised. And so it's so important to get inside these units, to call everyone you can, and then to stay in the loop. This is not something that you do one time. This is something that you do over and over and over and over again. I've been investing for only 6 years, going on 7 years, and every single year my rental market has been different. and I've been able to push those numbers. Now, with everything that's going on right now, maybe they drop and I need to stay on the loop on that. However, I think I've bought in that area where the demand will always be too high for those rents to go down. And if they do, it's not going to be by enough for it to matter to me, because it will never go down to what it was before I bought the property, where these people were already cash flowing. And so again, it's so important to get inside these properties, understand these numbers, and become a master of knowing your rental market. And it sounds like a weird thing, because if you want to be a big time investor and a big time owner of property, you wouldn't think that it would be that important to understand what things are renting for in these apartments, but it is the most important part, especially if you're trying to find an awesome deal where you can add huge value by increasing rents. And what's so exciting about this is, yeah, you increase your cash flow by increasing your rents, and that's awesome. But what you really increase is the overall value of the property. You can force literally millions of dollars worth of appreciation if you do this right. Now, if you guys enjoyed the video, please push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure that you hit the bell so that you get a notification for all of my new videos, because my goal is to make sure you get all of the content that you need to absolutely kill it as a real estate investor. And so make sure you snag that bell, and guys, have an awesome day. Thanks so much. We'll see you.